Hey guys, how's it going? My name is James Hsu, and this is my Freelancer 2025 year in review. I'm from Canada, but I've been living in China for the past 13 years. English is my dominant language, 但是我的普通话也有在进步. I'm an entrepreneur, two-time startup founder, corporate product manager turned freelancer. I went full freelance this year, and I want to tell you all about it. Just to also set the right context, I want to say a bit more about myself so that you understand what frame of reference we're drawing from. I would say that in addition to the experiences that I mentioned up top, I'm fairly open about the things that I'm good at and not good at. The things I'm good at include being a generalist. Because I'm a product manager by trade, I can do a little bit of everything. I'm also a little curious about everything, so I like to dabble in different things and experiment, and I think that makes for good freelance work. In terms of mindset, I think what I'm good at is being open to trying new things, launching things, and not to overthink product launches and experiments. If they don't work out very well, I just try to find a way to move on or to adapt. I also think what has worked really well for me is just having little to no fear of looking stupid. I got over that fear a long time ago when I launched my startups and went through all these learning exercises and learning curves. Which means that come today, I have no issue looking stupid when I ask for help. I am not concerned about things not working out or even failing. I just pick myself back up and find another way. So talking about this year, this is the year that I went freelancing full time. I did this in September, which has only been for about a few months, but I haven't looked back. My starting point is that having worked a number of years as an entrepreneur building products or maybe building products for corporations, I realized more and more that I was passionate about helping other people level up. When I was managing people, I loved mentoring them. And now, as a freelancer, I get to help people explore their careers and journeys. So with that context and mission statement, let me break down my year in several domains because first and foremost, I think of myself as a content creator or a 博主. But I also think of myself as a teacher, someone who trains and delivers courses. I've started monetizing on my courses for this year. And last but not least, I am an executive coach. I coach leaders, I coach folks from all walks of life on how to find meaning and purpose in their work and also help them unblock things that they're stuck on. So in a nutshell, I am all three things as a freelancer. And these are things that I built up over years and years of experience and hard-earned lessons learned, which is why even though this is the first year I went freelance, I had a lot of foundational things that I was able to take into these domains. So let's start with the first one, content. This is the stuff I love talking about, and this is also the year that my content really started to take off to the point where I felt more confident launching myself as a full-time freelancer. It is the core, the bedrock of everything else that I do. So just in terms of the high-level optics, I really buckled down on making content this year on Chinese social media platforms. I focus on WeChat 公众号 and 小红书, basically short videos. I had about 2,000 followers combined in March of this year. Now I am at about 60K, which is about a 30x increase. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of it because I figured out what kinds of content I want to make, what I can do consistently, what drives me to be passionate about building out the pieces of content. I basically average 3 to 5 pieces of content per week, which adds up to about 180 to 200 pieces of content for the year. Primarily short videos. They could be anywhere from 90 seconds to even as long as 20 or 30 minutes. I'm really proud of making the longer form videos, even if they don't do as well on the social media platforms. Sometimes you have to do things that you enjoy and not just chase numbers or external validation. But we can get more into the mindset of that later. I'm actually a runner. I like running marathons. And I think there's a lot of parallels between making content and running. For one, consistency is so important. But it's often a beginner's trap to talk about consistency, put out a piece of content every day, every other day, and just leave it at that. It takes a lot more than that. It takes understanding your audience, identifying what people want and giving it to them. It also takes making reputable systems for yourself. That's a whole nother big topic that I won't get into here, but the top level generalization is indeed be consistent. And just like running, there's a lot you have to do in terms of pacing. You can't go too fast, too slow. You might burn out. You might get lackadaisical. You might be unmotivated. But I'm very proud of the fact that I treated making videos this year as my job, because it is. It is the bedrock. It is the traffic that drives the other things that I do. I am also acutely aware that the 80-20 rule plays a huge part in video success. What I mean by that is that there's an unequal distribution of input to output. My best performing videos, maybe the top 4 or 5 of the year, accounted for over 80% of the traffic or the views. But despite that, I can't sit back and just rely on hits or videos to go viral, do really well. Some of them have. But consistency still matters because the platforms still reward you for constantly uploading what you have. I'm just not at the point in my career where I'm so smart that I know exactly what videos will get mega views. I just haven't gotten there yet. And maybe I just don't have the keys to that magical experience yet. So I still have to be consistent, still have to pace myself for the long game. But I think the biggest thing that allowed me to make the breakthrough this year is, and I'm almost hesitant to say this, but really, you treat making videos like a job. I don't just mean being consistent or clocking in. I try to think about making content versus all the other jobs that we do in our offices, or dare I say, mundane, routine jobs. You might spend 30 to 40 hours a week doing things that ultimately mean nothing. You get paid a nice salary, but you're writing emails, creating presentations. Yes, you might be moving the needle slightly, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have jobs that are ultimately inconsequential to the bigger picture of the company. You might be greasing the wheels a little bit. So I'm not saying this to talk down or trash on anybody's job. I'm just saying this because I think of making content as a job that no matter what you do, it's still going to have a payoff. It might be tiny. You might get one person that watches a video in the worst case, or maybe 0 in the really worst case. But it's still meaningful for you to learn something, to enjoy the making of it. And I think that's still better than 99.9% of real jobs out there. In real jobs, you may have absolutely 0 or even negative to show for it. But when we're making content, there's always something you can hang on to, you can be proud of. That little moment in the video or the scripting or the production of it, where you can sit back and say, I am proud of those moments. So this year, when I started to really internalize that, that's when I was able to become more consistent and more locked in than ever. These are kind of the foundational mindset aspects of the game that you have to get in your head, first of all, before you even start getting into the technical stuff. People get really, really hung up on the technical stuff, like what kind of camera should I use? What kind of software should I edit with? How do I look on camera? The reality is that none of it matters. None of it matters. I'm filming this on an iPhone, on a super low-end setup. I have reasonable lighting, and that's it. It's my phone and a light and me sitting here. So if you're watching this, you're trying to get started, stop making excuses. Just start and figure it out along the way and be consistent. All right, the second domain, courses, teaching, that kind of stuff. I would say there are hits and misses this year for me. The miss was I tried to create and launch a completely self-directed course where you just watch videos of me talking. It had no interaction with the real me, and it just bombed. Nobody wanted it. Maybe it had to do with the subject matter, it had to do maybe with the pricing, because I was essentially giving it away just to test it. I think people don't really value things that are free anymore. So there's a lot of reasons. It doesn't mean that I won't go back to that model, but I really reflected on that. It led to one of the bigger successes I had in my short 4 months as a freelancer, which is I managed to launch and successfully execute several iterations of my communication skills Masterclass. I sold it in a B2C format where I was selling the course to individuals. As part of that, I developed the course from scratch without using AI. outlining tools, any of that. I probably spent 80 to 100 hours making the course, and I really leaned into the teaching role, and I became more and more comfortable with the role with every passing session with my students. I really enjoyed this experience. I realized and confirmed something about myself this year, which is that I'm not just a speaker that's good at talking in front of the camera in a one-directional way. I can also interact well with audiences. I can respond in real time. I can take feedback, iterate on the course as if it was a product that I worked on in my product management days. So this is extremely exciting, very encouraging, and I will definitely be leaning harder into the courses aspect because this is an experiment that has actually worked for me this year. I'm hugely proud of what I've been able to do in a few short months. I know there's still a lot to go, but I'm super happy about where I am today. So that is probably one of the larger hits of the year. In another domain, we also have the coaching. Even before I started making videos or courses, I've been working with folks one-on-one on specific topics as an executive and leadership coach. I'm really passionate about helping folks reach their potential, and coaching helps me identify, work with other people on how they can achieve their breakthroughs and improve their self-awareness at the end of the day. Over the years, it started to really translate down to even my corporate work. So in my last corporate job, people said that I was a great manager and mentor. Essentially, they recognized that I was a coach without calling me a coach. And I'm hugely proud of that. It means that the way I communicate, the way I present myself, my presence has over the years evolved. And I feel like now I'm in a good place where I am qualified and I'm confident about helping people reach their career and life goals. One particular highlight I want to talk about is volunteering as a coach observer for my business school, the CIBS Global Executive MBA Leadership Module. This year, I had the privilege of being a coach observer in a team dynamic with the new batch of Gamba students. This was a huge honor. I made a separate video about that if you want to learn more. And it's those kinds of experiences that helped me level up this year even further as a coach. Because it's one thing to practice coaching and to put in the repetitions for that. But to take it to the next level, observing experienced coaches, how they do it, contrasting what they do with my own methodology makes a huge difference, and it's a great learning experience. So as coaches, we basically have the mindset of never stop learning. And also, we believe fundamentally that every client, every person we work with can improve. And I think those are very positive mindsets to have, especially in this day and age where people tend to dwell on negativity, people tend to have self-limiting beliefs. And so I have been very fortunate to see this year that a lot of the content and the courses and the coaching have been bleeding together in different interesting ways. Because when people ultimately connect with me as a teacher or as a coach, they see that I am the same James. I am the same authentic self in my videos as I am with them. And I think that consistency of character is what people want. It's also part of my thesis on why AI is never going to replace what people like me do, or at least replace 100%. Because people need that human connection. The issue now is no longer the knowledge game. Knowledge you can get anywhere. You can learn anything from anywhere, many places for free. But what's important is someone to help walk with you along the way and help you connect the dots and be there to interact and answer questions. This is why, even though I see myself first and foremost as a content creator, I think the interactive elements like coaching and teaching matter a great deal for my own longevity as a freelancer. And I'm really willing to lean into that experience. So just a few bullet points on what I'm proud of overall for the year. I think number one, being proud of my work ethic. I recognize that working hard isn't enough, but I love that I was able to motivate myself through most of the year in finding that intrinsic motivation from within. I had my down moments, but In general, I felt like I was quite good at motivating myself or picking myself back up if I was in a slump. So I'm very grateful for my ability to do that I've honed over years and years of working hard and being an entrepreneur and all that stuff. Also very proud of finding a product market fit with my course offering and with my coaching. I think a lot of it is like Nike's slogan, just do it. If you just put it out there, if you have no fear, especially if you're okay with iterating and changing it up, if you're finding it's not working, then you can do a lot of things. I'm really proud of being able to develop a communications masterclass from zero that has received strong feedback, which I'll show here, from real students who took the course. 100% done without the assistance of AI. I'm hugely proud of it. I think next year I'll continue to lean into this field, this domain, but I will also try to figure out ways to make it more interactive or to evolve the course or to provide additional offerings for those who want more from me, because some of you have said that you would like more. I'm proud of the fact that I was able to organize many workshops and sharing events, not only online. I also did offline events. Had a Shenzhen event, had several events in Shanghai. They were all great, which really speaks to the power of being a generalist and a one-person small business, which is what I am right now. A one-person business from start to finish. The funny thing is that when I collect payments or people add me on WeChat, where I add them to the event groups, some people ask me, James, is that really you or is that your helper? And I always get a chuckle out of it. I always tell them, yes, it really is me. It is really just me trying to be as efficient and effective as possible, given my circumstances. So I was able to keep costs really low because it's just my personal time and to build up the one-person freelancer business. This is the early stage of freelancing, so I am totally okay with making things that don't scale. The important thing for me right now is to find the product market fit and to find the right audience. And then later in 2026, I can always scale. This is the year that I really internalized the idea that it's okay to be small time for a while. It's okay to do things without high amounts of leverage or scale. It will come later once the content and the core offering is solid. Other highlights, things I'm proud of, I had mentioned already the social media consistency, making 3 to 5 videos a week, being rewarded with growth from the platforms because I was so consistent in my message, and also just putting out videos, period. As I mentioned, there's no shame in clocking in and just putting in the hours. This is a job. I have time to improve on my craft. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for my own business, for my future. So I have no issue putting in the time. And really, to say a bit more about my background, it's not the first year I started making videos, even though I'm making videos now for this particular domain. I was a content creator and podcaster for many, many years doing different things in completely different fields. That is all part of stacking the consistency that compounds over time. Because I had that experience of being a generalist and doing things like this and dabbling in different fields in the past, this allowed me to start quite quickly on what I need to do now. So I would say in general, I'm optimistic about the year ahead. It's always hard to project what will happen even 6 months from now as a freelancer, especially in this domain and industry where things are changing so quickly. But I have a lot that I'm grateful for. In terms of misses or what I think I can improve on as a freelancer, I think a lot of it is just the social aspects. Recognizing dead ends, recognizing business connections and conversations and collaborations that are not going to go anywhere. There is a difference between being patient versus just spending lots of time on something that will go nowhere. So I think next year is really about developing the right intuition and just finding out who are the people that will not only be good collaborators, but they're going to lift me up and they're not going to create negative energy in my life that forces me to disconnect with them later on. Sometimes we're just working with people with completely different values from ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, is that actually what we want? It is challenging for me as a naturally introverted person to be more social, to go to more events, to network, to do business development. So I have to be more selective with my time, my opportunities, but also recognize those dead ends. Easier said than done, right? But I think the first step is just having the awareness, and then we can always act on it, and iterate over time. Another thing I can improve, I alluded to, scaling out the business. I am patient about that because I am just trying to make my domain, my product right, regardless of scale. But I think next year we can start looking at how do we scale out the operations, perhaps hire people to get the output a little bit higher. How do we more strategically gather and marshal resources to make this thing bigger, to help it grow? But I'm not really a fan of growth for the sake of growth. At the end of the day, I want to make this a lifestyle business that I'm proud of, but I can control the inputs and outputs and the kind of time that I spend on it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm spending a lot of time on my small business right now as a freelancer, but I want to be able to put more controls into it over the course of 2026. Another miss, maybe we could call it a miss, but I think it's just opportunity cost because I was so busy just getting things off the ground. So it's not really a miss, but maybe things that I can start working on more for next year is just more knowledge sharing, period. Both paid and free knowledge sharing. There's a lot of things that I experienced this year that I kind of had to learn the hard way. And I also have now built up some credibility about the knowledge because I've applied it successfully in my context. Things like, how do you build a course? How do you become an effective freelancer and create a system for yourself? Even if you're a one-person business, how can you be effective, efficient, manage everything? How do you stay motivated? How do you keep yourself fit mentally and physically? Even things like, how do you start running marathons from zero? How do you make content? How do you coach people? How do you coach people in public? How do you design workshops? These are all things that I experienced over the course of the year. And I think I would love to figure out if there's a way to pass on that knowledge to others. Because I think it's really important for you that's watching this. If you're not a freelancer, you need to think about in 2026 whether or not you can get on the train. Because we all know that corporate jobs are getting harder, they're getting less stable. Not to scare anybody, but we're seeing this happen. You could be laid off tomorrow, even if you're the most amazing worker in the company. It's not always personal, but we all have to think about how do we build up the security and safety net for ourselves? How do we take ownership of our own careers, of our own lives? You don't want to do it when it's too late. That's why I think doing all of this knowledge sharing in different contexts, different environments, I think it's going to be really meaningful to help others along the way. It still advances what I want to do, which is to help your development. And I really hope that you, whoever is watching, can become the freelancer that you want to be in 2026. Or at the very least, just get started, because getting started is the most important foundational thing. All right, this has already been a really long video. I could talk about this stuff for hours, but I think I'll just end this with a short list of whom or what I'm grateful for. I am really grateful this year, looking back, on mentors and friends who took the time to review my teaching and presentation methodology. I invited them into some of my dry runs. They helped me fine-tune my ways, not only my ways, but the mindset. You know who you are. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I also want to thank the fellow coaches in the coaching community in Shanghai and elsewhere for taking a chance on me for my continued development, growth, and learning. Really appreciate your time and taking a chance on me. I'm grateful/thankful for my family. They've been very supportive, and even though they're not freelancers, they don't understand everything I'm going through. There's no way they can fully understand. I recognize that. I'm glad they're just there for me. And I say family, but I also have some really good friends who always have my back. You know who you are. I'm really grateful for the deep friendships that I have with some folks out there who are always willing to call me out when I'm doing stupid stuff and always being supportive, giving me the feedback that I need, not just what I want to hear. And of course, my community and fans, for your support and for your feedback on what I do. I am truly appreciative of that because I think of what I do, the content, the teaching, the coaching, it's a symbiotic relationship. I cannot really exist without your support and you wanting to know more about what I do and absorb what I do. So I have to be constantly grateful for that. All right, that's my 2025 year in review. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in 2026.